Welcome to this week's episode of Gary Talks. The spinoff is a tried and true TV tradition. It's where they take a popular character from a TV series and give them their own show. Or sometimes, they invent a brand new character for a show so that one day that character can have its own series. It's been going on for over 50 years, and it's still happening today, as Mythic Quest, one of the funniest shows on TV, has a new spinoff called Side Quest. So in honor of that, I'm looking at my top 10 favorite TV spinoffs of all time. And I have some special guests, some of the creators of Side Quest, and I'll show you their interview in just a bit. Before I get to my top 10, let's go over what I consider a spinoff, because a lot of people have different definitions. I don't think a prequel series or a sequel series counts as a spinoff, so Twin Peaks: The Return, not a spinoff of Twin Peaks, simply a sequel. House of the Dragon, not a spinoff of Game of Thrones, as it tells the same story hundreds of years earlier, so it's a prequel. One that some of you will disagree with is Better Call Saul. I see it on lists all the time as one of the top 10 spinoffs ever, but I don't think it's a spinoff. It's telling the same story as the Breaking Bad universe, just before Walter White and after Walter White. So it is a prequel and a sequel, not a spinoff. With that out of the way, let's dive in. Number 10, Benson. A spinoff that outshined its parent show Soap, Benson is a masterclass in sitcom excellence. Starring the brilliant Robert Guillaume, the show follows Benson as he rises from a wisecracking butler to a high-ranking political figure in a governor's office. What sets Benson apart is its perfect balance of sharp wit, heartfelt moments, and political satire, years before shows like Parks and Rec made government settings comedic gold. Guillaume's Emmy-winning performance is the heart of the show, with his dry humor and commanding presence elevating every scene. The supporting cast, including James Noble's bumbling yet lovable Governor Gatling, adds depth and comedic contrast. Beyond laughs, Benson tackled real issues like race, politics, and social mobility, making it more than just another sitcom. A classic that still holds up, Benson is proof that a great character, when given the right platform, can create TV magic. Another comedy comes in at number 9 with Maude. A fearless and groundbreaking sitcom, Maude was a Norman Lear creation that pushed boundaries while delivering sharp comedy. Starring B. Arthur as Maude Finley, who was Edith Bunker's cousin, the show followed the outspoken, ultra-liberal feminist as she navigated family, politics, and social issues in the suburbs. What made Maude special was its willingness to tackle controversial topics: women's rights, divorce, alcoholism, even abortion, at a time when most sitcoms played it safe. B. Arthur's performance was iconic, blending razor-sharp wit with raw emotion, making Maude both hilarious and deeply human. She was flawed, opinionated, and unapologetically herself, paving the way for future strong female characters on TV. Maude really mixed laugh-out-loud moments with thought-provoking storytelling. Earlier I mentioned that sometimes a character is created with the express purpose of getting its own spinoff. That's what happened with my number 8 favorite, Mork and Mindy. A spinoff that became a phenomenon, Mork and Mindy was a showcase for the genius of Robin Williams. As Mork, the quirky alien from Ork, Williams delivered a whirlwind performance, blending physical comedy, improvisation, and rapid-fire wit like no one else on television. The show's heart came from the chemistry between Williams and Pam Dauber, who played Mindy, the kind and grounded human who helps Mork navigate life on Earth. Their dynamic was sweet, funny, and surprisingly touching, making the show more than just a gag machine. While the series leaned on slapstick and absurd humor, it also had moments of sincerity, exploring themes of loneliness, acceptance, and finding joy in the everyday. Though later seasons struggled with network interference, Mork and Mindy remains a cultural classic, proof that with the right star, even the wackiest premise can lead to TV magic. Now it's time for my first non-comedy spinoff on the list. Number 7, The Flash. A spin-off of Green Arrow, The Flash started as a thrilling and heartfelt superhero series, bringing the beloved DC speedster to life with a perfect mix of action, humor, and emotion. Grant Gustin really shines as Barry Allen, a forensic scientist turned Scarlet Speedster, balancing heroism with personal struggles. The early seasons, especially the first 2, delivered compelling villains, exciting time travel twists, and a strong supporting cast, including Carlos Valdez Cisco and Tom Cavanaugh's many versions of Harrison Wells. However, as the series progressed, it struggled with repetitive storylines, uneven CGI, and an over-reliance on speedster villains. Despite these missteps, The Flash remained a fan favorite, offering heartfelt moments, epic crossovers with the Arrowverse, and a very likable lead. While it didn't maintain its initial quality throughout all 9 seasons, it is one of the most entertaining superhero shows of all time. And we're back to comedies, as it seemed that sitcoms really know how to handle the spinoff. Number 6, The Facts of Life. A classic coming-of-age sitcom, The Facts of Life took a simple premise: teen girls navigating life at a boarding school, and turned it into a heartwarming, long-running hit. A spin-off of different strokes, the show found its stride after narrowing its focus to a core group of girls, Blair, Natalie, Tootie, and Jo, under the guidance of the wise and caring Mrs. Garrett. What made The Facts of Life stand out was its mix of humor and real-life issues. The show wasn't afraid to tackle topics like eating disorders, racism, and peer pressure, while still keeping things fun and lighthearted. The cast had great chemistry and the characters grew up on screen, making their journeys feel authentic. While later seasons struggled with cast changes and shifting settings, The Facts of Life remains one of the best TV spin-offs ever. Before we get to my top 5, here is my interview with the creators of the newest TV spin-off, SideQuest. I'd now like to welcome 3 of the creators of SideQuest to the show: Katie McElhenney, Ashley Burch, and John Howell Harris. How you guys doing?
Good.
Hi, great. How are you?
Gary?
Doing great. So I love Mythic Quest. I think it's one of the best shows on TV, and I know all of you guys are really busy working on that. So whose bright idea was it to add 4 episodes of a spin-off to your plate?
That was these 3 dum-dums. Yeah. We were like, you know what we need? Stress. Stress hives is what we need. It wasn't a huge process. It was, we were looking at episodes to explore for season 3 for the departure episode. We filled up a whiteboard of ideas and then was like, well, what if we just made this? Also, to kind of just make an extension of this Mythic Quest world. There's so much to explore. And Apple said yes. So kind of here we are. And it didn't feel like it was it's always a process to develop and get it onto the screen, but there was really no guesswork to it. It just made a lot of sense, and looking at it from the gaming motif of this expansion pack that just adds a little bit of bonus to already great content.
Well, I did notice that these kind of felt like those standalone episodes that you do so well. Were any of these 4 going to be in Mythic Quest?
No, actually, these were all, sort of conceived as part of SideQuest. I mean, all 3 of us have been working on Mythic Quest since season 1. Katie wrote many of the standalone episodes that ended up being in Mythic Quest. So, this is very much born of those experiences. So there's obviously that continuity because we're the same people, and that was part of the point of it. But yeah, these were never taken from like stuff that we were talking about with Mythic Quest. We really, when we started SideQuest, kind of looked at what do we think would be the most interesting, what different stories, really like very distinct stories could we tell, and that's sort of how we arrived at the 4 that we ended up making.
Well, yeah, and with these 4, I mean, the tone was so different from episode to episode. Was that something that you guys set out to do? Did you first say, we want this kind of tone in this episode and this kind of tone in this one, and then the story followed? Or did you guys just come up with the story and you let the tone find its own place?
It was definitely more of the latter. We would, try to put together as compelling and emotionally satisfying a story as we could, and then based off of that, we would have sort of the filmmaking follow that, so how we shot it and the costuming and everything else, we made a real conscious effort to, use everything at our disposal to sort of make sure that that tone and the story we were trying to tell came through in the best way possible, because we're working with such a short period of time to tell like a complete story with like characters you care about and you're rooting for and whatever else we were trying to make you feel about that. So yeah, I mean, it was in a way it was a necessity, because you're like, we have to use every single thing that we have to tell this story, from like lighting to costumes, so yeah.
Well, I got to tell you guys, song and dance was pretty much painful for me to watch, because
I have had
That's what we
bosses
want.
like Ian.
So one time, my wife has to have a major surgery. And that day, the boss calls me and asks if I can go ahead and come into work because she's just going to be hanging out in bed anyway.
Oh, wow.
Oh God.
Brutal.
Well, we had to get a rough cut out. So have you guys ever had a boss as bad as Ian that has no clue what boundaries are?
No, I've only had wonderful experiences working in the MythiQuest universe. I mean, we all have. I think that's what makes these stories so universal, is you can see yourself in all of them. And yes, you might not be an art director for a narcissist, but I've worked retail, so yeah, I certainly have. Fortunately, in where we are right now in the MythiQuest world and the TV experiences I've had, it's only been great bosses, which have I think helped, and I think that we can say that for a lot of people that we've worked for. So that's then helped us, I think, create an environment that people want to work on, and a show that respects those work-life balances. And I think we were able to make that kind of an episode because we've had the opposite. And to make an episode that reflects that, you have to have a positive working experience. So we were able, I think it was a kind of cathartic to make that, but we've all had those experiences where it's either you're working on vacation because you don't want to deal with it all when it's worse when you get back, and now I've got 1,000 emails when I could just come back to 50, or you could just completely disconnect, and it's harder and harder to do that because we have our lives in our pockets. So just because we have accessibility doesn't mean we should have availability, and that can just be a hard boundary for bosses to make.
Okay, so you say you have your whiteboard full of stories, but we only got to see 4 of them. Are some of those other ones going to show up in a season 2 of SideQuest?
I mean, we certainly hope so. Yeah, there's no shortage of ideas in sort of different parts of the world that humongous games like this affect. So I think it's kind of the sky's the limit. So yeah, we're certainly hopeful we get to make more of these because, it's such a joy.
Well, I really loved it. Okay, so finally, today's show is all about TV spin-offs. So, what is your favorite spin-off of all time?
SideQuest, say SideQuest,
Say
say
SideQuest.
SideQuest.
SideQuest, and only on Apple
Say
TV
it.
Plus. March 26th. All 4 episodes out at once.
She loves the Cleveland show. That's all she watches.
That's all I talk about.
That's all she watches.
Well, thank you guys so much. Again, SideQuest is out right now on Apple TV. I hope everybody checks it out.
Thank you so much.
Now back to the top 5. Next up, Good Times. One of the most groundbreaking sitcoms of its era, Good Times mixed humor with raw social commentary, portraying the struggles of a working-class black family in Chicago's housing projects. A spin-off of Maude, the show centered on the Evans family, led by the strong and loving Florida and James, who fought to provide for their kids despite economic hardships. The show was both hilarious and heartfelt, with standout performances from Esther Raleigh, John Amos, and Jimmy J.J. Walker. But beyond the laughs, Good Times tackled racism, poverty, and injustice in a way that few sitcoms dared. Behind the scenes, creative tensions led to the departure of John Amos and later Esther Raleigh, and as the show leaned more into JJ's antics, its original balance of comedy and realism suffered. But still, Good Times remains a culturally significant, pioneering series that paved the way for future black-led sitcoms. Coming in at number 4, Boston Legal. Sharp, witty, and delightfully eccentric, Boston Legal was a legal drama like no other. A spin-off of The Practice, this David E. Kelley creation blended courtroom intensity with outrageous humor. At the heart of it all were James Spader's brilliantly smug Alan Shore and William Shatner's bombastic yet lovable Denny Crane, one of TV's most iconic bromances. Their witty banter and cigar-smoking balcony chats gave the show its unique charm. Beyond the laughs, Boston Legal tackled serious issues: capital punishment, civil rights, and corporate corruption, with intelligence and emotional weight. Though at times over the top, its mix of legal drama, comedy, and social commentary made it stand out in a sea of procedural shows. With sharp writing and unforgettable performances, Boston Legal remains one of the most entertaining and thought-provoking legal dramas ever. There's already been one spin-off of Happy Days on my list, Mork and Mindy, and I'm about to talk about another spin-off of Happy Days. But some of you may say, wait a minute, if you like these spin-offs, don't you consider Happy Days also a spin-off? And I say no. There was an anthology series called Love American Style, and it would have different segments and sketches and things like that, and there was one segment that was the basis for the show Happy Days. But I don't really consider that a spin-off, as it was just a sketch that became a TV show. Same as Mama's Family, which was a recurring sketch on the Carol Burnett show, but with that being a variety show, I just don't count it as a spin-off. So that's why Happy Days isn't on my list, but coming in at number 3 is another of its spin-offs, Laverne and Shirley. A spin-off that became a smash hit, Laverne and Shirley took 2 lovable supporting characters from Happy Days and turned them into sitcom icons. Starring Penny Marshall as tough, no-nonsense Laverne, and Cindy Williams as bubbly, optimistic Shirley, the show followed the adventures of 2 working-class best friends navigating life, love, and laughs in 1950s Milwaukee. What made Laverne and Shirley special was its infectious energy, slapstick comedy, and undeniable chemistry between its leads. The show's physical humor, wacky schemes, and catchphrases made it endlessly fun. Yet beneath the laughs, it celebrated friendship, perseverance, and chasing the American dream. Like a lot of these shows, later seasons suffered from cast shakeups and a move to California, but Laverne and Shirley still remained a cultural phenomenon. With its mix of heart and hilarity, it still stands as one of the most beloved sitcoms of all time. Coming in at number 2, the greatest comedy spinoff of all time, The Jeffersons. George and Louise Jefferson were next-door neighbors of Archie and Edith Bunker for the first 3 seasons of All in the Family. After a few members of the Black Panthers who were fans of the show talked to Norman Lear, they asked why all the black characters on his shows are always dirt poor. Lear decided to take that idea and make the Jeffersons wealthy and move them into an upper-class high-rise building. George and Wheezy were a dynamic and relatable couple, and their interactions with their neighbors and friends provided plenty of comedic moments. The show's supporting cast, including Florence, the sassy housekeeper, and Tom and Helen Willis, the interracial couple, added depth and diversity to the show. My personal favorite was always Mr. Bentley, their eccentric British next-door neighbor. Because The Jeffersons was so well-written, well-acted, and socially relevant, it left a lasting impact that can still be seen on today's television landscape. And now for number 1. My favorite TV spinoff is Angel. A darker, moodier spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel follows the brooding vampire, Angel, as he moves to Los Angeles to seek redemption by helping the helpless. The show blends supernatural noir with action, humor, and deep character development, creating a compelling mix of Monster of the Week episodes and overarching storylines. While Season 1 starts a bit uneven, Angel quickly finds its footing with strong supporting characters like Cordelia, Wesley, and later Fred. The show excels in moral complexity, with Angel constantly struggling against his dark past, and it delivers some of the Buffyverse's most shocking twists. With rich storytelling, memorable villains, and a willingness to take risks, Angel actually surpassed Buffy, and I think is the best spinoff of all time. And that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank my guests from SideQuest, and be sure and join me next week when I look at my top 10 favorite power ballads. It's sure to be a fun list. See you then.
From capes to tapes, Gary's on the case. He's breaking down each scene, every place. On Gary Talks, he's quick with his peculiar wits. From plot twists to the comic strips, Gary's flipping sick.